Hi guys, it's Julie here, and today I want to talk about how everybody's freaking out online because they think that Bruno Mars is a cultural appropriator. I don't know why they decided that today or yesterday or whatever they did it, but they did it. Anyway, here's the thing. I think that people just need to get over themselves because to me it seems like people are just looking for anything to complain about. I mean, okay, so like they're making this cultural appropriation thing way bigger of a problem than it really is. Like obviously I'm all pro black and whatever, but don't get it twisted. I mean this cultural appropriation is not like a really big deal to me. Because he's not I don't think he's cultural appropriating. I mean people are saying, oh well the difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation is like when you know the history, when you acknowledge and you respect it. Okay, well he does do that. He does know the history, he does acknowledge it, he does respect it. He knows who his influences are and he acknowledges them. So I don't know how people are still gonna call him a cultural appropriator. And like it's like why are we getting mad at him for making pop, funk, R&B type soul, disco type music? I don't get why we're choosing today to be mad at him about it. I mean, okay, listen. Obviously that all the genres were created by black people. But here's the thing today in this day and age, I can't name another mainstream disco, funk, R&B type artist. If I'm in the mood for that music, he is the only person who's currently doing it right now that I can name. The only mainstream person who's doing that. If I'm in the mood to listen to that song, I'm gonna have to listen to Bruno Mars, or I'm gonna have to go way back and listen to freaking Daryl Hall and John Oates, or Sherilyn, or freaking Earth, Wind and Fire, or freaking like Fetus Michael Jackson, like off the wall Michael Jackson, if I want to listen to that music. And because he's the only person doing that. And even if there were other black artists who were doing that, what is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to not do his best? Is he supposed to not try and do his job well for the sake of letting other black artists be the face of it? Like, I mean, it is his job, and he whatever he does, he wants to be the best at it, and you can't blame him for that. I mean, I don't expect him to be a mediocre fucking soul artist, R&B artist, because of other black people are not good at are not successful at it. And honestly, if we're gonna be offended about our culture being ruined or being taken away from us, we should be offended by the people who are making hip hop culture and R&B culture and black culture in general trash. And it's the freaking people like Lil Pup, Takashi 69, Lil Xan, all these ratchet ass freaking whack ass rappers. Those are the ones who we need to blame, not freaking Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars is out here just doing the best that he can do. I think like it's just ridiculous how people will find anything to bitch and complain about. I feel like if we're gonna say that Bruno Mars is not black enough to be doing R&B, well then we also need to complain and say that Darius Rucker is cultural appropriating and that he's too black to be making country music. If we're gonna say that, that's what we need to be saying. We need to call out Darius Rucker too. And you know what's funny? How no one called out Beyonce and him for the weekend when she was pretty much culture appropriating that Indian shit. I mean that Indian stuff. That Indian I mean it's not shit, but like the song, like how with Coldplay and sorry, no offense to any Indians watching out there, your culture's not shit. But it's just the way I talk. But just like the whole Coldplay Beyonce thing, like anyone could argue that that was cultural appropriation, but nobody was mad about it. I mean, actually, no, there actually was some backlash, but it was mostly from non-Indian people, I think. I don't really think that many Indian people got upset about it. But yeah, I just people just really need to get over themselves. Like everything is not offensive, just because I think that he should be allowed to make any type of music that he wants to make. If Bruno, like, just because we only heard of Bruno Mars like 10 years ago, that doesn't mean that he was never ever around. Like you need to remember that singers, a lot of times, they're just the voice and the face of a song. You know, every song, especially pop music, especially mainstream music, every song takes multiple people to create. It's never just one person who produces it and writes and sings and mixes it and masters the whole thing. It's rarely like that. I mean, it does take a lot of people, and a lot of the people who write his music are black, and he did used to write a lot of music for a lot of black artists too, and they're all seem to be okay with it. Ain't nobody, those people in Hollywood and the music industry, whatever, they don't seem to be complaining about the fact that he's uptown funk. I mean, they don't seem to be complaining about that. The black writers who are doing that, they're not mad about it. They're not mad about his Versace on the floor. They're not mad about his perm. They're not mad about his freaking dripping and finesse. They're not mad about that. And they're the ones who write that shit, who wrote that shit. So if they're not mad about it, why are you mad about it? Clearly they don't care. The writers of the song, the black writers and the black producers of that song are not tripping over it. They're sleeping. They're getting their royalties. Why do you give a fuck? If they don't give a fuck, why do you give a fuck? Anyway, and what else was I gonna mention? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like, people just really need to get over themselves and find something new to worry about, because we have bigger problems in the black community that we need to be solved. Nobody needs to be staying up here worrying about freaking out over talking about some. Oh, I need a message Sensei Seren, whatever the fuck her name is. Talking about some. Oh, if Bruno Mars died tomorrow, I would bake a cake. She went too far with that. Like, now let me tell you something. That girl, she's really smart and she does make a lot of good points, but in her videos, and you know what? When I was like 13, 14, I used to watch her, and I'm so glad I stopped. I'm so glad I stopped watching her. I'm so glad I stopped watching Ghazi, because those two, they're extremists. Like, I remember Ghazi, he made a video. He talked about some. He went and he gave out homeless people food, but he didn't give any to the homeless white people. Like, that is so fucked up. You know, these two are extremists. When she said that she would die, she would bake a cake if you died. Really, girl, is that serious to you? Is that serious? And you know, like, these people are straight up extremists. So I don't really pay attention to what she says, and it sucks because she's a smart girl. Like, she also thinks that all white people are inherently racist. I mean, that's not really smart, but it's not the truth. You know what I mean? But she does make a lot of good points. And if we're gonna end, you know, this whole thing about, oh, uh, we like black music, but we don't like black people. Well, guess what? It's not Bruno Mars's fault that he's not black. If you're mad that 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 society likes black culture but not on black people, well, then you can't blame them. You have to blame society. That's a social thing. It's not Bruno Mars's fault that people would prefer a non-black man to make R&B music. It's not his fault that that's what people prefer. That's a social thing. So to take your anger out on him is wrong. That's wrong and unjust. So yes, I think that's all my points that I had to say. But yeah, anyway, people, please get over yourselves. You know, Bruno